please join me in giving the energy you just gave me to our next speaker, VP of Engineering at Adobe, Vasanthi.
So should we give Movable Inc. a round of applause for this amazing, amazing event? So how did we get here, this conversation about evolution of customer-centric engagement? From waiting for mail order catalogs to asking AI assistants a question and they answer instantly just about anything. This did not just happen overnight. This happened in many waves, and each wave shaping the future of customer experiences. This changed the way we connect, the way we buy products, the way we trust brands. So back in the 1980s, some of us were still working then, email started spreading through ARPANET. University researchers were sending digital messages. And nothing flashy, but it quietly, completely rewired the way we communicate. Email me became kind of the word. In 1991, the first website went up from CERN Labs. It quietly revolutionized the way we communicate as well. It opened the door to everything we do, the digital transformation we have today. By 1998, Google launched search, and suddenly we were not browsing and looking at pages, we were changing our workflows. We were finding and looking for things. 2024, Facebook launched. The internet goes social. It's no longer about pages, it's about people, about human connections. And then in 2007, we have the iPhone, my favorite moment, where the internet ends up in your pockets. I've tried every phone out there, the flip phone, the BlackBerry, and the large phone that I used to hold against my face driving, which is no longer even legal. Fast forward to 2022, ChatGPT arrives. And for the first time, we're not just reading, we're asking questions and getting answers. So I've been fortunate enough to experience every one of these shifts as seminal moments in technology, as a technologist, as an engineer firsthand. Call me a dinosaur, but it makes me an expert in, well, evolution. I can tell you that what's to come in the future is going to be the biggest transformation of all. You heard from yesterday's keynote that 80% of customer interactions in the future is going to have AI, either visibly or invisibly. So let's break this down into a few parts so we can have a meaningful conversation about the evolution. We'll talk about the new customer experience, what assertions and observations we can make there together, about data, content, and journeys and the framework upon which this rests, and what this might do to reimagine marketing workflows. Let's start with customer experiences. So Malcolm Gladwell said that the tipping point is that magic moment when an idea, a trend, or a social encounter crosses a threshold, tips over, and spreads like wildfire. If we look at all of the seismic shifts in customer experience that we just talked about, they align quite well with the new transformations and the tipping points against each one of them. With Gen AI and GPTs, this is going to spread like wildfire. You can imagine that if you look at email, for instance, we started using email as a way to communicate. Then we went to social, and we had ratings and reviews. If you're a foodie like me, you're probably not going to live without it. With Gen AI, I feel like there's a few things we can address. The familiar experiences are starting to shift and change, and new ones are sprouting, which are powered by conversation and intelligence. And some may go away. For example, pages have gone away. I'm so glad I could never explain this to my family. Why was an engineer carrying a pager? if you, I have to go back. If you look at the customer experience disruption, few things will change. Consumer expectations are being rewritten. Brands that cannot hold a conversation with their consumers will lose to those that can. And digital experiences will be evolving, not necessarily replaced. For example, email is such an example. We still are using email at scale. Adobe has delivered billions of emails just on one Black Friday. AI will become ambient and is going to be embedded in all of our experiences. You may not have a surface called AI, but it's going to be in every surface that you already have. Let's make some observations about customer experience. Number one, AI is the new UI. Many of us have already experienced this. If you go to Netflix, you're probably clicking on the recommended for you. So it's already available to you in an ambient way. And there's evidence that people click on this. With chat experiences, conversation is going to be a new interface. Users will tell you what they intend to do, not necessarily directly telling you, do this, then do this, then do that. It's not going to be as deterministic. The big difference and the big unlock is in favor of AI here. If you look at all the static experiences that you've used, you click a menu, you go to a navigation, you have a form to fill out, then you go do something else and then something else, and all of these tasks together make up what you want to do. This works across many different modalities. I think the way we're headed is conversation. All of these clicks and forms and navigation is going to distill down into a conversational interface. So in my mind, AI is the new UI, and this works across voice and text and other images. For marketers, this lowers the entry criteria for your skill set. Any type of marketer is able to enter into this conversation with the interface. So it's one interface, many surfaces, and we'll be talking about marketers more soon. On the consumer side, consumers are expecting to talk to brands like they talk to their friends. Human interaction, natural, responsive, and contextual. So the conversation should carry the context, like know about your past preferences and purchases, and especially things that are off-site sometimes, like loyalty points and so on, without that jumpiness of going from one experience into another experience. So you can expect that of your consumers as well. Observation number two, it's a little bit techy, so I'm going to go into a bit of an explanation. So agents are your new API. What's the real difference between an API and an agent? So APIs act on a service or a task. You create some structured input, typically JSON, you finish the task, and you produce a structured output, typically in JSON. Agents, on the other hand, are intelligent. They are powered by large language models, which you heard about yesterday, and of course, which is everywhere now. It can take unstructured data, which is images, photos, PDFs, documentation. It can intelligently process it, ask the user questions, and have that conversation because it's powered by LLMs, and it can produce unstructured data. Again, documentation, scans, images, whatever. So the difference is APIs were just doing structured. You would go through a process and get an output, and agents can take in any unstructured data, can stay in the game until it's answered, and produce the unstructured output. It can also do structured, by the way, but that's the major difference between the two. So you can imagine that in the future, all these agents we've built out, each carrying a skill and can have a conversation with each other through natural language as being the interface. So that's the big takeaway. Number three, chat agents will come between brands and consumers. Now, you're familiar with this because we've had this in search and SEO, and you had to plan for how to do SEO for your own brand. But customers will use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and it holds answers to many of the questions. It knows all of the content in the web. So customers may choose to stay there in the chat agent longer without having to transport themselves to a different place, a website or an app. So you're going to have to plan for chat agents to come between brands and consumers, and there are many products out there sprouting to help you with that. So let's move on to our second pillar, data, content, and journeys. With the assertions I shared, these are still the instruments of execution in order for you to do your work with consumer experiences. Let's start with data. For years, marketers have optimized on behavioral events, profile attributes, clicks, opens, page views, visitors, and so on and so forth. This is all the language that we've developed having done digital transformation on the web. But a world driven by AI and conversation, we're now moving into intent signals. So when you type in something in your chat agent, you're typing in the intent you have to do something. I want to find this product. I want help determining this. How many points do I have? So you know what the customer is trying to do before you actually direct them into some situation that they may not be ready. Personalization is shifting too. It's no longer handcrafted for each, as you saw in Movable Inc.'s updates yesterday, and what Adobe is going to do in the future as well, that it's not just one campaign at a time. It's going to be much more ubiquitous, continuous, not these discrete items that we've worked on. So you can expect it to be dynamic, individualized, and supporting the rules set by the marketers. So you're still in control. You're still setting the direction and strategy, but it's going to be much more dynamic. And goal-based, let's not forget that one. So it's no new news that generative AI is here to stay. Unless you've been hiding under a rock somewhere, you probably have already heard that there are umpteen number of tools to generate content out there. And Adobe has been in that forefront, as you know. We have Adobe Firefly, Adobe Express, and Gen Studio to help you create content, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about how this content explosion is going to impact the way you do work. First, you'll have to modularize your design. So imagine that assembly becomes important. So you're going to split things up. Some of the content you're going to vary, like you saw yesterday, with thousands of variants or maybe even millions, with maybe geographically located variants, or it could be profile-based variants, but you're going to have a lot of content. So modular design is going to become very important. The number two here is machine readability. So you're generating Gen AI content that's generated by AI, but it's also going to be used by AI. So making content ready for machine readability is also important. Performance, traceability goes without saying. One of the key issues I've heard talking to CMOs out there is lots of content out there not knowing which one's good and which one's bad, and which one's performing, which one's not. And the upkeep of content is costly. So making sure that you have a way to trace the content end to end, using tagging, a really good DAM, and other methodologies to be able to keep track of your content. And content analytics is something that Adobe is also spending time on, so you should look that one up. Here is the absolute kicker. AI is the first consumer of the content. You've already seen this in your email inbox. You see the summaries. So when you send email to a customer, they probably are looking at summaries in the future, not necessarily going to the detailed clicks. So your content that you prepare needs to be summarized in a way that the customer sees it in their summary content. And this is, by the way, folks, this is here and now. It's happening today. The journey evolution. This one's close to my heart because I drive customer journey management. Journeys today are pretty static and predefined and predetermined by marketers. You define an audience, you send a bunch of people through a journey. Each step of the journey is calculated and deterministic. But in the future, imagine a state where you can create a journey or adapt them based on a customer need. They don't all need to be handcrafted. They can adapt real time based on conversational agents. For example, journey arbitration is something to consider. When you want to take multiple journeys and possible paths, and you want some other entity to decide for you which path to take, which one is right now for the customer. So the journey becomes very dynamic as the customer is typing in questions and having a conversation with the LLMs. So let's keep going, moving on to kind of the marketing workflows. We talked about data, journeys, content, customer experiences. All this will fall upon the marketer to refactor, to be able to recreate marketing workflows. So let's be honest, you've seen many variants of this picture through yesterday. It's not far from reality. Today's workflows are manual. They're fairly fragmented. You know, from segment to content design to QA, it's dozens of disconnected steps, and I'm sure all of you can attest to at least one or two of these. Launching a simple campaign, I know I've heard this from customers just speaking to them, it takes weeks to do. And it's not that the tools have not evolved. I know I'm a platform person, so we've spent a lot of time improving time to value, getting the highest degree of velocity for our customers. But the flow hasn't kept pace with what the consumers want. And so AI is the big unlock. It truly is. So what if, instead of chasing timelines, QA approvals, marketers can focus on goals and strategy? What if AI can recommend opportunities while you're looking at a journey? It can go assemble content because now you have tagged and modular designed content already. What if you can talk to the agents as a marketing practitioner to be able to create and craft what the customer needs? That's where we're headed. So in this new model, marketers will set goals. They will say, here's my brand guideline. Here's the guardrails within which you have to work. They will shape the conversational logic. They might say, avoid these questions, or if these questions are asked, give this answer. So there's also a particular deterministic way you can do this. But it also allows the thinking part of the agents to be able to respond accurately based on the data and how you've configured it. Now, this is not just automation for the sake of it. It's really about creativity and delivering that speed and velocity of, how addressing consumer problems and questions. So let's bring this whole story to life. So let's assume Sophia is a skincare shopper. She visits her favorite brand. She scrolls through products and she's looking for something. Filters, menus, all of the stuff that we talked about. In the meantime, she adds something to cart and then she goes to her SMS. She gets somewhat of an unrelated SMS from the same brand. And then she's curious if what she asked for return-wise, and she goes to WhatsApp and checks that and there's nothing there. So she has a disconnected experience. She gets distracted and walks away. And I know all of us as consumers have done this before. I do it almost regularly because time is of essence, and we try to go shopping and we don't get it all down, and then you come back the next day and the next day. So let's look at behind the scenes what she might find from Paul, who is the digital marketer, who is trying to fix all of these in the back end. He would look at tickets for dev and analytics teams to go figure out. You have 5 different engagement tools. You might go to an audience and create the audience, and then you might go to a journey screen and fix the journey, and you might go to a content screen and fix that. So you're always juggling between these experiences, and you're constantly rebuilding campaigns, but you're also super afraid of touching campaigns that are evergreen, that are running for a long time. I hear this from customers all the time. I have these 10 things, I don't want to touch them, so I'm going to make a new one. So now you're sprouting new journeys and new campaigns and having to upkeep them. So now imagine the new world. Sophia visits a site, she's greeted, and the system knows what she's looking for because she searched for it earlier. And she gets an answer about yes, but I also want to use my points. And loyalty points is one of those things that I talk about frequently because it's an off-site system. Sometimes you don't have access to all of that information. But having your loyalty points right there for the customer means she can say, sure, you have 15% offer, and you can save all of your points and use your points to buy Hydra Calm, which is a fictitious skin product, and it's perfect for the winter. So now in that response, you have recommendations, you have loyalty points, and you have a checkout process. And this is what I mean by AI is the new UI. So all of those things that you had to go build out, and all of the training you had to do for all your marketers to do specific products, even learn them, is just going to be simplified into this one viewport. For the digital marketer, if you go back to what we said earlier, you're going to be training the AI assistant to deliver cohesive experiences. You may craft some questions because you don't want it to go crazy and ask some random things you don't want. There's some out-of-scope questions. And you're combining AI and the creative strategy to iterate and optimize. So let me switch to a real-life example. NFL, National Football League, the iconic American brand. They have the largest TV audience, the highest attendance, average attendance for games. They are a true partner of both Adobe Experience Platform and Movable Inc. So that's why I brought up this example, but they're awesome. I've worked with them for multiple years, starting from the first initiation of RTCDP or RCDP. In a world where the attention is so premium and engagement across so many channels is hard to get, they've done a terrific job. They've gone from campaign-based engagement to fan-based engagement. And they have some devoted fans, and you know them. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about their partnership with Adobe and what Adobe is going to do in AI. In 2025, this year, they signed a global partnership with Adobe to support them in all of their AI efforts. The reason I bring this up is I hope I've sparked a little bit of FOMO, so all of you will run and do that. They're going to be using Firefly for image, video, audio creation, which is our own Adobe products, Gen Studio for content management. They'll use a lot of the Movable Inc. products. They've been doing that for many years. And on the Adobe Experience side, we're offering 2 different things. One is for marketers and practitioners. We're calling that AI Assistant. So in the example you saw earlier with Sophia and Paul, you'd be able to craft the agents in a way that they will function for you. So this AI Assistant, it will have a bunch of agents working behind the scene. You'll have journey agent, audience agent, data onboarding agent, insights agent, and so on. They'll all collaborate and work for you so you can craft that experience. On the consumer side, you're going to be getting a concierge where you can put a question chat agent on the website and be able to communicate with your consumers directly. Both are coming. I'll end with this. AI will elevate marketers to do more, wait less, and bring life to end-to-end customer experiences, everything that we've always dreamt of. And as a platform team, it is our job at Adobe and Movable Inc. to provide you that unifying force. We know internally organization readiness is a challenge. There are different people, different teams. There are detractors, there are supporters, there are early adopters, late movers. But as a platform, our job is to provide you that unifying force so your team can get the most out of AI and the most out of our platform. So go make those amazing customer experiences. Thank you.